right. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having yourselves a fantastic start to the AM here. Happy Thursday morning. And yeah, I hope you're all feeling sharp, refreshed, recharged, hopefully, and ready to go. It's been kind of a little bit of a like tumultuous trading week. I mean, that's maybe not the right adjective. I'd say it's tumultuous because in hindsight, kind of feels like a week where I would have been better off on holiday. Like not really a tremendous amount of volatility, not really a ton of action out there here yet so far. And just like not yeah, I don't think there's been like a particularly easy subset here of price action. I was talking with someone about this a little bit there yesterday, but I feel like we get into those indecisive or choppy or kind of like draining bits of PA as we start to get like a narrative shift in markets, right? So I would say that the summer trade has been effectively like tariff based, right? And those various headlines. And I think we're slowly transitioning into maybe not slowly, but we're transitioning into a Federal Reserve basically based narrative, right? Where what happens with Powell and what happens with interest rates is going to be the kind of like main character for the next little bit. And so as we're transitioning that, as we're seeing right those dynamics change, that pulls people away from the market, right? Or that puts money onto the sidelines, and it creates that sort of low liquidity, choppy, indecisive PA. And then as that narrative becomes let's say impossible to ignore, then we kind of create ourselves a scenario where you then return right to trending price action. Now the obvious spot right for that to kind of show back up here at some point, or to sort of be back in play, is probably around like the first interest rate decision. So, if we can get a cut here in September, right, that would possibly be the catalyst for that type of enthusiasm. Otherwise, we're probably looking at more headlines, either something like Trump stacking the deck with his appointment, right? So getting someone that's very pro him and his sort of rate cutting incentives, or right, we get more narratives about Powell maybe getting fired, or that lawsuit building out, or whatever you want to call it, right? So I think until we see that really clear narrative, the objective here, or the target, is to basically survive, right? And until that moment occurs where we can thrive again. And that maybe sounds a little bit dramatic, and I don't think that it will be. But what I mean from a like survival perspective is that it very much is going to be an environment where less is more, where protecting mental capital is going to be exceptionally important. And how if we just focus on losing small, then we're going to be able to take advantage of those reasonable sized wins. The other element, right, is just like focusing and forcing myself to be trying to buy deeper pullbacks. When markets tighten up their ranges, I want to tighten up my executions, because if I can turn a 3.5 to 1 risk reward into a 10 to 1 risk reward, or a 15 to 1 risk reward effectively, then I'm going to set myself up to be able to make a lot of money. Now, that was a scenario that we saw play out very well on Tuesday. And I think that's, I think the way to continue to trade in these environments or in these conditions, and then really just be focusing on protecting mental capital here, and not trading slop, right? That's sort of the objective. So let's see what the market has in store for us here today. Hopefully we can get ourselves a relatively interesting bit of price action, and then we can kind of go from there. should have a relatively smooth economic calendar here this morning. More Trump speak. Crazy. Every day, man. This guy, I love the sound of his own voice. I gotta say, that's probably the thing that gives me the most anxiety when I'm reviewing my trades, watching them back. Hearing how stupid I sound is quite humbling. All right. So ES, green candle, decreasing volume, gap down, right? So 1 for 3, non-trending price action here. And we're looking effectively in either direction. Now, what we've seen, right, in the last, I don't know, couple days, one red candle, one green candle, one red candle, one green candle, right? Like that pattern has pretty much been spot on here. I mean, we're going to be targeting 65, fine, to the downside. And with this downside move, I think probably fear, is that the move has now happened overnight, right? Yesterday, we saw basically all of yesterday's price action happen overnight or off of that 8:30 data. Today, we're kind of like, back to square one to a certain extent, without necessarily a tremendous amount of implied range. We're at 1%, a little bit less than 1% of implied range, and we've done 60% of that already so far here this morning. That for me is going to be, probably the thing to be worried about, right? So don't want to be too aggressive. Like, I don't think I'm going to get a move down towards 62.40. But if I can maybe get down to like 420, nice, right? I think that could be a pretty reasonable spot for us to like camp for the night. So target here, 450. So I think that 420 probably our realistic target, but let's have it mapped out just down towards that 400. Just keep life simple, right? All right. Make sense? Yeah. Discord, we good? Yeah, perfect. Okay, NQ, green candle, decreasing volume, gap down. So again, right, that 1 for 3. And looks a little bit like a rejection at all-time highs, right? That for sure could be a narrative here. So that also is why we have flexibility to trade in both directions today. We didn't have that flexibility yesterday. To the upside here, probably looking at 24 as kind of just our starting point. I have a new keyboard coming today, so no more keyboard frustrations. And we're looking 23.6 probably eventually, maybe 23.3. So say 23.6 is my first one. Oops. Again, right, kind of going down to that psych level. I think both tickers are reasonably in play, right, for us to have that flexibility in both directions. So let's see where the path of least resistance shows up here. Again, kind of the theme we've talked about a little bit this week in general too, has been when you get a pop, 8:30, you're off of data, you tend to get the move an hour after market opens type thing, right? So like 10:30-ish. If it doesn't, you don't get a reaction to the data or there's no move overnight, then you tend to get that maybe enthusiasm there early. I think based on what we're seeing here so far this morning, we're probably more setting up for that enthusiasm late than enthusiasm early. All right. CL, red candle, decreasing volume, rolls on Monday. Again, 1 for 3 here to the downside. So flexibility in both directions. Again, you know, this is kind of on the chopping block here a little bit. We'll go 64 up towards like 66. And then to the downside, we're targeting 62.50. So again, not much changing there. Okay, Apple, 2 out of 3 to the upside with volume. Baby gap down, right? Like 17 cents or something. Tesla, 2 out of 3 to the downside without volume. Microsoft, 2 out of 3 to the downside with volume. Amazon, 2 out of 3 to the upside without. Nvidia, what? Okay, it did make a lower low. So we'll call this a 3 for 3 to the downside. AMD, 2 out of 3 to the upside with volume. Pretty big gap down. Looks like it's going to try to fill that gap and then maybe go. Meta, failed breakout. Retest of the bull flag would make some sense. But it's a red candle, decreasing volume, gap down. So 2 out of 3 without vol. Okay. Netflix, again, 2 out of 3 to the downside with volume. Now, not a tremendous amount. Yeah, Kobe, I'd recommend watching the videos in the Start Here channel. All I'm doing here is describing the trending price action. So I'm looking at 3 things: daily candle, yesterday's daily volume, and then today's price action. So I want all 3 of those things to tell me the same story. And so that's what this is telling me, right? It's telling me 2 out of the 3 things are telling me bearish support, or 1 out of 3 things is telling me bearish. So I would recommend watching those videos. Okay, Google, this is setting up as an inside bar. And again, red candle, decreasing volume, gap down. So 2 out of 3 without volume, and setting up some inside bar. And then the old Vixaruni here, hanging out at 15.15. So probably not a ton of fear or volatility still implied in the market move here today, right? We're looking at, about 1%, a little bit less than 1% here. So it would be great to see an overreaction. That would be fantastic. I would love to see this or this or this, or even this or even this. So looking for hopefully some enthusiasm here this morning, some intensity from markets, and then can hopefully take advantage of whatever that move is. Any questions here, team? Everyone feeling good? All right, perfect. So let's get after. Let's see what the market has in store for us today. And hopefully, right, we'll get a smooth solution Not bad opening range size on the 1 min. We're looking to effectively just avoid indecision here this morning. Don't like the divergence. Similar to what we saw early yesterday, right? Yesterday morning, we saw one story from NQ, one story from ES, and it led to a pretty choppy session. Doesn't feel too different to that here yet. Feels a little bit bouncy. And trying to keep it pretty slow here. Not expecting it to be busy early based on what we've seen here so far. So far, I already have some potential fears, right, about it being, and fears maybe is a little bit of an over exaggeration, but if we've got some anxieties, maybe about it being a market that wants to move a little bit later in the morning. Not sure if we've seen too much here yet that would indicate otherwise. Now we are starting to get a little bit of these stories to sync up, which would be very, very positive and would make me like eat my shorts pretty quick. But we definitely would now need to see volume return, right, in a significant way. I don't think we're going to get increasing volume here on this candle. I mean, a minute is still a reasonable amount of time, but I don't think we're going to get it. It'll be close, but I don't think we're going to get it. And then back to hanging around round numbers here, right? So we'd like to see it obviously hold above that 900 target. That's also going to be kind of like the secondary element we care about here. Okay, so not enough volume. Good, not great. I'm not saying that at all, Mike. Right now, I'm saying I have no active setups and I'm waiting for markets to give me volume before I'm interested. CL might be the most likely to give me volume here. I kind of hate crude though. Like I would need the candle to close under 48 probably, or like at 48. Can't play this as a reversal. It would need to be a stronger candle shape. Again, I'll pass. Maybe on the 5 we can get the reversal. Ignore that ding, please. Interesting. Actually getting a mean reversion set up. And it's interesting because the volume is much bigger than yesterday. That's why I'm watching here maybe a little bit. It's been a while. And it doesn't make it a bad thing, but not sure if I can talk myself into the aggressive entry on it. I'd probably want to see the fake out lower. I'm going to wait for now. Again, very limited reasons to be aggressive yet. Just keep the daily in mind here so far, right? We've not done much. NQ maybe a little bit better, but if we now look at the back-to-back days, again, that's just formal indecision, right? We're in the middle of 2 days worth of range. So not a ton of reasons to be hyper aggressive now. NQ, okay, maybe a little bit better, bit of a bearish failure there. And we'd be targeting this red line, right? 964. So it's not a ton of space, 44 points. So it's going to have to be tight. Maybe I could target 24. No, bad close, bad close. Needed it to close above 917. Did not do so. So I'll pass on the burden of confirmation here. Maybe we can get that close on the 5, and we'd have to now be above 920. But no, that was a terrible close. All right, time to go grab a coffee. 90 minutes is up. All right, so still not the volume there, not the volume on the 5. I timed up that coffee. Perfect. So still got to wait here, right? I don't have any confirmations here. Again, stuff is giving me setups, but without confirmation, I can't take it, right? So sometimes things are going to move without following my rules, kind of how I expect or how I want. And tough shit. You got to just suck it up in those scenarios, right? I use candlesticks and volume for my confirmation. If you'd like a little bit more information, I would recommend watching the videos in the Start Here channel, as it breaks down that process in a lot more detail. Back to watching CL. Needs to hold under here. And with enthusiasm would be nice. Okay, not good enough close. So again, pass on the burden of confirmation to our 5-minute time frame. Okay, we're back in business here on NQ. Right, broke above high a day, held it on volume. I'll be targeting just 24,000 here. So we're already looking for the aggressive, right? Made a higher high. So reference price would be 934. Let's see where it finds some support. Okay. So 923 would be the stop loss here. And don't rush it. So long, right? So I'd be looking at 2 contracts here, team. I'm just looking for a gentle pullback here now. Under the blue line, right? Hey guys, I am in. Average price 933, stop loss 923, 2 contracts. Okay, it's got to start pushing here, right? This has got to be the spot. Okay, it's going to be a 2 out of 3 candle by the looks of it, right? So no reason to get out of this. Okay, so far so good. Keep watching this thing break out through 950 here now, right? This is going to be the next kind of zone of resistance. There it goes. Okay, now potentially failing. Let's see if it wants to get back over 950. Okay, keep pushing, baby. Again, so far, good candle here. Okay, keep watching. This is a good, pretty good trade, guys. Pretty good trade. Now let's see if we got a little bit more juice left in this. I probably want to get out of this before 10 a.m., right? All things considered. Nice work, Herschel. Ooh. Hey guys, obviously I'm out of this trade. I am out of this trade. That was a freaking nasty rejection. Exit price 937.75. That was a huge rejection. All right, oh. Walked out green. That was, yeah, that was wild. Literally, like the second I said I was looking right for an exit, if, like, market makers were listening to me here today. Let's go, Jamie. And that's exactly it, right? That's perfect. That was fucking wild. Well, yeah, you can do whatever you want, Tim. Personally, if I feel like I need to protect my entry, I should just get out at that point. Well, that's why you practiced on your paper trader, right? And practice consequence free. That was wild. Nice work, Doug. And don't trade the number, trade the chart in front of you, right? There was nothing here that was telling us that this rejection was coming. That's just the symptom, right, of low liquidity, low volatility markets. You get those big rejections. Shit happens. So we have to be able to still remain objective, right? And we're not trading the number in front of us because that's just a way to torture ourselves. We trade our process, we trade our technique. Did we break any rules there? No. If I didn't break any rules, that's a positive trade. So market miner, like, okay, losing 12 bucks, not a big deal, but you had more than enough time post exit to get even an exit around the 940 range. So just can't panic in that situation, right? Buy yourself that extra second to get out as P&L is increasing, not on the panic flush. Honestly, yeah, like a bullshit trade, no doubt about it. Bullshit reaction, uh, dumb reaction. Sure, but if you're not going to take that number consistently on the upside, right, then why hold yourself to that standard? And the other idea here too, right, of capping your gains to the upside also makes no sense. Right? By saying, okay, every time I'm up $1,000, you're removing your margin for error for what happens when you get paid out on bigger trades, right? Or bigger wins. So it's the psychology, right, of getting addicted to the number then that makes it tough. Because when the number happens quickly and easily, it goes to a situation where like, oh, I'm not going to take it this time. I'm going to get more. This one's going to run forever. When then it hits your imaginary number, right, and then sells off, it creates that extra anguish because you're like, why didn't I follow this rule? So the watching the P&L creates an emotional reaction to it. And the only way to counter that, right, is to make your trading decisions based on a technical reason or what the chart is doing. Because at the very least, it gets you to stop making decisions or judging decisions based off of a number, which then ultimately long term scales a lot more. Because, you know, as you add your sizing or as you add more accounts or as you do whatever, that $1,000 is going to be a lot different. And if your psychology is going to continue to be capped at that level, then you're going to hit a ton of roadblocks as you try to scale up. So it's going to be much easier to focus on making good technical decisions and understanding that not all of them are going to be perfect and using that to maximize, right, your P&L. 100%, Nick. Yeah, even went above that price. So the goal here is basically not to make a panic decision when a trade doesn't work out in your favor. Usually it doesn't flush the whole time, the whole way. So the reason why 10 a.m. was a point of interest was because there's data dropping at 10 a.m., right? So with that like extra potential headline risk, I wanted to be out before that. Right, just so because I expected that the algo reaction was going to come at 10, not 5 minutes before or 6 minutes before, whatever it was. Like that for sure was an outlier. Like that was not a. Yeah, I don't know if we could have like reasonably expected that candle to have happened, or there was no reason for us to have expected it to happen at that point. So algo is just like a generic term. Um, Big funds, big banks, big pension funds, whatever, they will have automated trading strategies that are looking for specific cues or triggers, right? So an algorithm just means that it's a trading decision made by a computer, not by a human. And no, ICT did not make the algo. Funny, you know, I started off the day saying I would have been better off going on vacation. Today, another example of that, right? Kind of like bullshit price action here a little bit. Honestly, not quite sure on the take profit trader rules around news. Um, so yeah, I don't know. You'd have to look up their FAQ. I don't know off the top of my head what the time restriction is. Yeah, that was some bullshit today. Yeah, maybe. It's like $190. So 1001 would be good, right? Well, Lay, you made more money than I did on that trade, so you did a better job closing than I did. So I wouldn't beat yourself up about it at all. You did great. There's a fine line. This is kind of important, maybe the topic of the day here a little bit. There's like kind of a famous saying, right? Like you can't go broke taking a profit, but you can also not compound your account taking a profit too early, right? And so that there is a little bit of a middle ground there, and there is a little bit of that ambiguity, right, around that. But I think with trading, you need to long term find a way to position yourself so that when moves do give you that all day follow through or that long move, that you're not just like by default shaking yourself out of those positions. Once you've been up a little bit, you almost want to give it as much room as it can to play out your thesis. And so learning how to manage that and to create that buffer for yourself, right, is a very important thing. Now, I would say that for some people, that buffer might be easier to create once they build up that P&L buffer for themselves too. If we can remove some pressure on ourselves and having to be perfect, and we can just focus on being a little bit green, then that can create a lot of mental clarity. But sometimes that can be the long way around to actually trading the way that you want. So I think I've won, right? I say this a lot, but we need to be like selfish in doing what's best for us and ourselves in our trading. So everyone's going to react to numbers on a screen a little bit differently. And so if you do find that, you want to cap your upside and have that max P&L pool, fine, go for it, but make it an absolute, right? So every time you're hitting $1,000 or $1,500 or whatever the number is, that becomes a hard set rule, and understand that there's going to be pros and cons to it, and you're probably going to feel a lot of FOMO in scenarios where trades run past that or beyond those numbers. So figure out the pros and cons that you're willing to live with and stop torturing yourselves, right? When you get the cons of your strategy or you see the pros of the other one, got to figure out what what your edge is there. Like it's not, we don't want to be swinging for home runs, right? Like that's not really what our objective is, but we want to be um like you want to create margin for error for yourself, right? If you can get a couple of those names that do give you big follow through a month or even a week or whatever time frame, and you can build up that buffer, that's really where you can start to survive, right? And to be in a really good situation. If you're constantly keeping your P&L very limited or you're capping it just because it's a number, yeah, you do create scenarios where you're limiting your margin for error, right? You're increasing how perfect you effectively have to be. And so even though it potentially can make you some more money in the short term, I think long term it probably works against you. And yeah, there's going to be times like today, right? Where we hit a wall, reject out of nowhere, and we see $800 evaporate from our accounts. It happens, right? We're taking risks. It's going to be a part of it. No decision that we can ever make is with 100% certainty or guaranteed to work the same way each time, right? So we're solving for like 60% or 70%. And if we're happy and consistent with those behaviors, then that's ultimately how we make money long term. So it's the consistency in the approach and the consistency in our technique that actually allows us to maintain that profitability. And then within that, right, there's going to be variance and there's going to be times where winning and losing feels personal. And so we have to, again, right, kind of default back to that consistency and basically get off of that roller coaster. The more that we allow or create one for ourselves, it just drains so much more mental capital. I think it puts us all in a much more difficult situation. And that's easier said than done. That it's always the obsession. And the more consistent I can be in my approach, right? The more consistent I can be in my technique, then the more obvious it is, right? What I need to fix or what I need to change to avoid, um, yeah, basically repeating mistakes, right? Because if I'm have the same stop loss logic or get to my stop loss in the same way, or I get to my entry price in the same way, or my position sizing or whatever, once one of those things stops working, it's obvious what it is, and then fixing it should also be obvious. And that's really what our long-term objective is. So we're trying to make it easy for us to lose effectively in the short term, and we're trying to make it easy for us to be able to learn and notice our mistakes. And if we can do those things daily, then our P&L will catch up to our technique and we'll start to make a tremendous amount of cash. And that's really what the objective is. So the more consistent we can be in that process, the easier it is to basically play out that equation. So again, this is where I would say this, like Joel, your question. Like I personally don't push my stop loss up until I've pyramided into a position. It's the only time I'm interested in pushing my stop loss up so I can lock in that risk-free trade. Um, but personally, like I'm a believer that if you feel as if it's time to protect your position, it's time to close your trade. So, in my opinion, it's kind of like your self-conscious or like your subconscious telling you that you're maybe worried that your idea is no longer strong. So if you're willing to get out at a price 10, 20, 30 points lower than whatever the current price is, why not just take that better win effectively and then get impartial, reset, and either look to play a rejection or to look to play a continuation move. But I generally don't like closing trades as P&L is decreasing. Like getting stopped out protecting a win is generally as frustrating as getting stopped out on a loss, maybe arguably worse. And so I think that for myself personally, I don't like doing it because, yeah, I think it drains my mental capital disproportionately. And so I'd prefer not to. Um, yeah. So it's kind of a little bit of a personal choice. I would also say that I did used to do it a lot more. I used to scale out with runners and then protect positions and see if I could get follow through. And I did a little bit of math and some calculations. And it turns out that I would have made a lot more trading those exact same setups if I just closed entire positions all at once, basically, even at the point where I was closing for runners. And so that ultimately kind of cemented it to me that it wasn't actually helping me remain more profitable and that I was going to make more money being all in, all out. Yeah, I would need to see breakout above the opening range here. If it was like off of these lows, the reversal would be pretty cool, but I don't really want to play a breakout until we're getting a breakout above high day. Because my base expectation is CL is going to be a disaster because it's been a disaster for 2 months. So I don't want to give it any credit until I've got like just really clean breakouts or really clear reversals or whatever. and not going to be increasing outlier. So, I want you to think about like trading institution is a little bit different than trading retail. So, like, even on a slow day, we've been open for 45 minutes. I would still have at this point like a lot of orders where I'm looking to basically uh, buy in certain zones, right? So, like, start of the day, I probably have maybe like 15 to 20 big orders or like big positions that we have to manage or we're watching, we want to trim or whatever. So at this point I would still be very busy in that mode and would be really focusing on those elements. Where things would slow down would be probably like an hour from now, something along those lines. And then at that point, honestly, it would be uh absolute chaos on the desk of just like what would be going on and what people would be trying to do. Generally there'd be some sort of like bet on about something, or uh, everyone's like reading the same Daily Mail headline and like talking about absolute just garbage. So it'd be a little bit of that. Yeah. We had one of the big ones, I guess, is like, you know, those little bucatini like cheese balls you can buy that come in like a container that looks like cottage cheese or whatever. We basically had, you know, bets on like who could fit the most in their mouth, right? Stuff like that. Yeah, I mean a little bit less a little bit less extreme than Wolf of Wall Street. We weren't quite inviting hookers into the office or throwing big parties there. Not quite that same level of enthusiasm. But there'd be a lot of stuff. And then if it was like expecting to be like a little bit of a quieter week in general, um, then it'd be a lot of like they'd be rolling out a lot of upgrades on our systems or our technology that we were using, or you know, testing new broker connections or new data feeds or stuff like that. So there was a lot of work that always needed to be done. Like I always said, you know, my hours working there, like I was working like 80 hours a week, give or take, maybe like 70. Um, but I'm not trading for like the vast majority of the time. A lot of what the work was done outside of market hours, and so that was all of my trade reviews. I had to do that with a portfolio manager. When I first started working there, it was daily. When I got a little bit more senior, then that became like a weekly, monthly, then quarterly type thing. But still, expectation that I did it myself. And then yeah, it would be a lot of testing connections, you know, figuring out what we wanted to do for corporate actions, voting on stuff where we had voting shares. So there would be, you know, full trading day, and then there would be, I don't know, 6-7 hours of prepping, of testing, of reviewing, and that was yeah, always what you would spend your afternoons doing. So I'd be getting into the office to trade US hours in the UK. Like markets would open I think 2:30, and so I'd be getting into the office maybe like 10 a.m. and you'd be leaving like 11:30, something like that. And obviously in that time period you get a lot of let's say you get some downtime, but you get like an hour, maybe like 35 minutes for like the chef to cook you lunch and then the chef to cook you dinner. So you'd sit down, you'd have a nice meal, you'd eat something good for you. You'd wish you were allowed to have a glass of wine with it, and then you'd go back to work. Yeah, more of that typical CL nonsense. Yeah, so just not good enough from a confirmation perspective to play it to the downside. And low of day and our 2R range are the same, at least on the 3-min time frame. But maybe a little bit tight now from a risk reward perspective. It does feel like things are slowing down though. I did a pretty wild ride yesterday. It was really fun. E-bikes are insane. And yeah, I cannot believe how capable they are going downhill. It is so impressive. did this trail that's local to me here. It's called Hey Bud, and it's wildly steep double black trail on Blackcomb. And oh my gosh, it was unbelievable. On an e-bike with like 130 millimeters of travel, and it was so smooth. It was crazy. Again, not going to get them the volume that I'm probably looking for. And ideally, we're looking for a breakout through high a day here. Already seen an FU rejection at that price. And then we're getting closer to Trump speaking. Who knows what's going to happen? Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. The bike that I ride normally, it's very long. And so it's not great in corners, but boy, is she stable downhill. It's so much fun. I do think I'm in a little bit of a desperate need of a rest day though. Like it's Thursday and I've already put like 130 kilometers into my legs so far this week. So I'm a little bit sore. Okay, so we'd like to see this breakout sustain right above this blue line here. So 960 effectively. We're about halfway there from a volume perspective. Let's see. I guess biggest concern here, right, is that we potentially might not get outlier volume. It should get there with a minute to go. If it doesn't, that would be a huge disappointment. Yeah, I still can't get over this. Yeah, we're possibly looking here. I think of what should be my profit target here. Kind of a shitty close. That's a little bit better. 81 to 69. It's not terrible to 50. I'm going to go 65 points up here. And just go one handle as a profit target. That would look like that on the pullback technique here. And I would like to see basically previous high of day act as my support for my entry. So that'd be a 960. Entry price with a stop of 949. So you'd be risking, 11 points or so. Pretty reasonable. If it wants to go aggressive, then we could say, right, that previous high of day is acting as support, and we could look for an entry around 980. But I think pullback would be best. I would like to see that act as support. Like one more test of it would be really, really nice. For now, I've got everything set up here for the pullback technique. We got some work to do still. Five-minute candle just closed too. Very similar setup here. Yeah, let's watch. I'm looking under 960, right? So as we get under that blue line, watch how quickly it pulls back. I'm not instantly clicking if it touches. I'm waiting to see if it finds support at or under, right? So that means I'm going to give it time. Now, time is a relative in trading. Doesn't mean I'm going to give it 30 minutes. But I want to give it enough time so that I can judge the reaction on the pullback. And if it's going to go inside bar here, then it might set up, right, for an aggressive entry technique with tighter risk reward. Everyone understand the plan? Okay, so again, just watching here. I've got everything set up, but just watching. Just because we have one doesn't mean we're necessarily going to get an execution, right? And I would rather miss this move than compromise this trade, right? So if it doesn't behave exactly the way that I want or expect, I don't need to click submit. And if it goes aggressive, which it looks like it might, would be stop loss 966. Reference price would be 979. Right? So you're risking 13 points. So 13 times 20, right? Keep it tight. Again, if we can get a small pullback and break out and tighten up our stop loss location, then we can go more aggressive with position sizing. But for now, this appears to be a one contract trade. And now we can maybe go two. And let's see where it finds support. So if we can find support off of like 970, that would be excellent. You'd be looking like that. Okay, now we're looking for a gentle pullback here. Come on. Didn't give me a chance to enter. Let's see if it does here. Okay, so now watching closely on this reaction under the blue line, right? And I would say so far, probably moving a little bit too fast. Like pretend that the wick above the blue line doesn't exist, right? So, I mean, I've got my hand above my screen. Obviously, you can't see that, but pretend it doesn't exist. If that wick didn't exist, would you say that the blue line is acting more like support or more like resistance? Right, that's effectively all you're asking yourself. There, we finally got our first kind of indication that it's acting like support. So this is starting to get very interesting here. Hey guys, I am in average price 77.75, 977.75, 977.75. Two contracts, stop at 970. Nah. Feels a little bit like it's stalling out here. So it's got to start moving here pretty quick. I don't trust it. I think I'm going to get out, guys. All right, I'm out. 979 exit price, 979 exit price. I didn't like that reaction. Just wasn't moving immediately post entry. Not what I need on this. I don't want to get paid, or I don't get paid for being early. So I'm going to take my small little win and move on. If it behaves the way I want, I will jump back in. But it's not doing that. It's stalling. So we'd be looking for a breakout right above this, basically. I have a correction on my exit price. My exit price was 980.50. Sorry, got a little bit of slippage, positive slippage there. That's a nice happy accident. So sitting on like $300 here on the day. Not exactly a banner session, but also I don't think I've missed out on fuck all here yet. If it sets back up, we can try to do something like this, right? Stop loss 976, reference price 989, right? And look to try it again. But if my entry on that wasn't green right away and it's kind of a bit of a shady candle, I want to be really, really cautious. Okay, so now we're back to looking here, right? Stop loss would be 976. And we're looking for a gentle pullback, gentle. Fuck me. Yeah, that's fine. Basically, we're trying to make sure that that trade didn't become a loss, right? Once it's not moving as quickly as we expect or as enthusiastically as we expect, it's better to get out, reset, and try again. Not a big deal. If we can get some bit more oomph here, maybe we can start to target some actual nice levels. Nice work, Patrick. Okay, so we're gonna have a chance. There it goes, motherfucker. All right, targeting 24.1 would be the next move here. And ideally, we're going aggressive, right? We want to see that 24,000 act as support. It's going to go pull back. It would have to be to here, 989. So I would prefer the aggressive still. Okay. So 997 here, looking at 11 points of risk. So now you're looking 996 stop loss. Let's go, Nick. So difference between 2408 and 23996 is 12 points. 12 times 20, right, equals 240. So I would only be going 2 contracts, right? Now it would be less. Again, we should be able to figure out these calculations ourselves, guys. They're really easy. Let's go, Zeus. Congratulations. 7 contracts maybe sounds a little bit aggressive, but really nice win. Okay, so we're looking at a possible pullback here now. Stop loss 976. And I'm watching here. Hey guys, I am in average price 984, stop loss 976, and I have 2 contracts. And it's 984 on the dot. Stop loss is 976. And honestly, I might just be feeding on scraps here today. So far, so good here. So far, so good. Hmm. Okay, don't like that too much. Yeah, your position sizing is way too aggressive. You're going to blow your account. Oh, I got stopped. It was worth the try. Yeah, I mean, passing the challenge is not the important thing. Actually getting paid is what matters. You're trading all in or all out. So effectively, you need to be like perfect 10 times in a row to get a payout. No offense, but that's not going to happen. Hey, Monster Day Market Miner, let's go. I'm sitting on minus $10. It's like a legit guarantee, Zeus. You will not get a payout with that account trading those sizes. Legit guarantee it. And I'm not saying that because you're a bad trader. It's just literally the math is 100% stacked against you. Nice work, Jake. Maybe I have a downside setup here now, and this would be what I am interested in. Increasing outlier volume. Here's your fake out rejection, right? And so we'd be targeting a move back down towards low day. Okay. Stop loss would be 970. And so we got a gentle pullback here. I went to go adjust my position sizing and I missed my entry. Classic. Okay, we'll try this on the 2 here. Same thesis. I'm just trying to get a tight risk reward. Be careful with your language there, James. Please don't use the term impulse. That shit scares me. Okay, so we'll be looking at a 952 stop loss here. Okay, see where it finds support. Okay, so now we're looking at a 955 stop loss, we'll call it. We're looking for a breakdown under the blue line, guys, right? Please don't be stupid. Maybe on the 5, I could do this. That on the pullback. You need at least a 55 here. Ideally, you'd want it tighter, right? You'd probably want it like here-ish. It's going to be aggressive 961 to 940. That's 21 points. Again, one contract. Like the first thing, guys, right? When I box in my trade and I'm thinking about my entry price, first thing I'm doing, right, is I'm doing the math in my head. How many contracts am I buying here? It's the first thing I'm thinking about, right? So once I figured out what my stop loss is, next thing is position sizing. Only once I know, okay, where can I get the position sizing I'm interested in, that I'm willing to take the trade. So just get into that routine of doing it in the right order, because you're going to save yourself a lot of questions, a lot of hassle. And when I'm looking for an entry and I'm getting ready to place a trade, like that's the time where I'm the least likely to answer your question, right? Because I have to be focused on what I'm doing. I have to be focused on trying to get my own entry. So if you want to avoid missing trades, you got to solve those problems before you ever enter into one. It's a very simple and proactive decision. Like by the time we box in our trade and we start to map things out, you're going to have 2 or 3 minutes, right, to figure out your position sizing. Don't just sit there with your dick in your hands. Actually do the math and actually go through it. It's the only way you're going to fight through that anxiety. Okay, again, maybe we'll get a tighter risk reward entry here. I'd be looking at something like this, right? Stop loss 956, reference price 945. Oh, 10 points, give or take, right? Be 2 contracts. First thing I'm thinking about, right? Otherwise, we're still looking at the pullback. And we'd want to see it kind of up all the way there. Again, maybe this 5-man will give us a little scenario here. I would prefer the aggressive. Feels more likely. Oh, excuse me. Still only on coffee number 1 here, so bear with me. So immediately here, right, 14 points. I know it's going to be 2 contracts, or sorry, 1 contract, not 2. Right? Okay, watching here closely. Hey guys, I am in 944.25, one contract, stop loss 954. 944.25 short. Right, red is short, just in case. Come on, here we go. Give me a flush. This is tight. Hey, come on, die, 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 die. I don't know if I like this price action too much. Again, I kind of feel like I'm not getting paid for being early. I'm like that absolutely flirted with my stop loss. Like one tick away from the spread crossing and getting out. Oh. Hopefully it wants to come here. Come on. Come on. I do. So I don't care. Like, no offense, $100 all day. I'm here to trade my strategy, not yours, right? So honestly, don't give a shit. All right, keep pushing, keep pushing. All right, I don't like that pullback into 40. Should have gone to the Bahamas this week. All right. Yeah, I think I gotta find a close here, team. Trying to close as P&L is increasing. But I have a very, very tight range here. Very, very tight range. Ah, motherfucker. Come on, push, 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 push. Let's see. Come on, candle. For sure, right? But I'm here trading my strategy. I called out my thesis with it being the fake out and then high volume reversal. So you don't have to say a fucking word, right? Because you joined here to learn my strategy, learn my technique. So, like, when I'm in a short and you're saying, I don't see it, I don't do whatever, all it does is it creates like extra stress or extra pressure, and no one has any clue what you're talking about, right? So it's not helpful. Like, I don't care what other people's techniques are. I don't care what anything else is. I trade my style, my technique, and I'm unapologetic trading it. Nothing else matters. So I stick to my process, my technique. Don't give a shit. It's taken too long. Hey guys, I'm out. 33.25, all out 33.25. All right, I'll take a nice green day here. Yeah, a little bit over 10 points. Yeah, like 11. Not a big win, but again, the whole Process today. Protect before things stomp you out, before they turn against you. Done a good job of that. No complaints. 3 for 4. I'll take it all day long. Any questions here, team? Any questions? Hey, 350 is awesome, Tim. Well done. Nice work, Kiki. Nice work, team. Good to see positive P&Ls. And pretty much played out exactly like we expected here today, right? We stacked up some wins. We protected ourselves from letting things go green to red. Yeah, I can't really complain too much. Yeah, Herschel, I'm pretty much spot on, same as you. I'm like 207 and some change. Yeah, not like anything to brag or write home about. But any day where I'm green, good day. Any day where I don't make any dumb mistakes, good day. So happy to go enjoy the rest of my life. Nice work, Don. And yeah, probably for sure could have been a little bit of a bigger session. Like we got so unlucky with that first trade, with that rejection. Honestly, that felt so personal. It's not, but that's the way it goes sometimes. Feeding on scraps here. Yeah, I hear you, Tim. It's fun part of my job too. Sounds good. Have a great day. Oh, it was so fun, James. It was so fun. And I did a pretty wicked double black diamond trail on the way down, and I'm still struggling to wrap my head around about how capable they are downhill. It was spectacular, yeah. Would I ever do an Ironman? I don't know. Probably not. I'd probably drown. All things considered. Yeah, I don't think I would do. I don't think I'd do an Ironman. Yeah, of course, James. Always. Look, guys, pretty ruthless, right? And I can be a bit of a dick, but like for me, trading requires an exceptional amount of focus and a lot of like it just requires a lot of intensity, I think, to be able to do this job well. That becomes difficult if now you've got 30,000 different opinions, right, telling you what to do. All I know as a trader is my technique, my strategy, how I view the market, and everything I'm going to do and everything I'm going to say is going to be based off of those like 13 years worth of experience. I don't care about anything else. It really isn't important to me. And there's also not this feeling that there is like one perfect ideal strategy to rule them all. There are an unlimited amount of ways to win. And all I'm trying to do is show you how I win in my way. And I'm also not going to deviate away from that or change that because of an opinion of someone else. So for me, right, I'm super stubborn and super strict to my process. It's the only thing I'm willing to tolerate. Everything else is noise and a distraction. And when I'm trading, I don't like to tolerate those because it makes my job more difficult. So I'm here to show you guys what I'm trading, and always do my best to walk you through that process in as much detail as possible. If you don't like to trade, you don't have to take it. No one's got a gun to your head. All my job is here is to show you my process as transparently as I can and to be as honest in how I'm feeling in positions intraday. I'm not going to be perfect. I'm going to make a ton of mistakes. I'm going to get shaked out of a lot of plays. But that's the way it goes, right? We're not expecting ourselves to be perfect. We're expecting ourselves to get better each and every single day. And I'm pretty confident, right, that my P&L equity curve is going to stack up against anyone's here. So don't care for these victory laps. Don't care for that 896 or whatever. You haven't touched it here yet. So you're making up victory laps for things that haven't happened. And so it's hard to want to tolerate that type of fugazi behavior. So appreciate everyone who watched the stream here today. Hope you had yourselves a great day. Looking forward to trading with you again all here tomorrow. And hopefully, right, we can get ourselves some pretty good smooth PA to end the week. Seems like Friday last week was the one day that we got the trend day. Maybe that's going to repeat again here this week. So have yourselves a great day, team, and we'll talk soon.